got a great team of our panelists here, esteemed clients, and so I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself and our practice, and then we're going to move right into some questions that I've got pre-written for our panelists. You'll get to hear their stories about how they went through their selection process, reducing risk in finance, and fueling their extensive growth by moving to the cloud. We've got some great success stories here with, really achieving very different but yet highly successful outcomes with IPO, acquisition, and organic growth. So I know you're going to be really excited to hear from our panelists today.
Hey, Lynn, one comment. Have you noticed we're the only ones dressed up here on stage?
Again, I see a lot of friendly faces in the room. I've had the opportunity to speak in front of FEI before, and many of you have worked with us together over the years, so thanks for having me back today. I am a CPA. I spent early career in public accounting. Started a Great Plains VAR business, so now it's called Microsoft Dynamics GP, so the on-premise world for almost 20 years. I ended up actually selling off that business when I moved to the cloud and received such success using, implementing the Intact solution for our clients. So I sold off that ERP space, merged my firm with Armanino, and today I speak around the country to finance executives, just like you. We, on various cloud topics, but I also get to work with some of the very coolest people and companies on the planet, and 3 of my clients are here today. So a little bit about Armanino. Since I last spoke here, I may not have been called Armanino. It was a few years ago when I merged my business in. So we're the largest California-based CPA firm. We have about 800 employees, and we have offices around the country. So we're here now in Naperville and Chicago. We get all kinds of awards in California. But mainly digging a little bit deep into our cloud practice where I am, we've been the top Intact partner for 5 years. We're the top Adaptive partner. We have a big Microsoft CRM and ERP business as well in the cloud. And we bring a lot to the CFO organization, not just technology, but advisory services as well. So, you can see on the left side a lot of the different services we do offer. And we're, implementing these at clients around the country, as well as our technology space, not only with accounting, but equity management and FP&A and expense management as well. And then a little bit more about our solutions. So you can see some logos up there, but really our focus remains with you, the finance executives, the CFO organization. And our target market is really for different industry types, technology, professional services, general services, and NFP. And Armanino does a survey every year. It's called the CFO Evolution. I'd be happy for you guys to participate in it this year. We will be sending that survey out. But we know that you guys in the room are, where you are today and where you want to be is moving to more of a business leader and getting out of the real tactical stuff of a finance executive. Well, how do you do that? You do it with people, process, and technology. My focus is on doing it with technology. So you're going to hear today from our panelists about how they de-risked finance, they moved to the cloud, and just achieved very fast, aggressive growth and success. So with no further ado, I will introduce our speakers for our panel today. I did want to let you know I have a few questions that I will be asking the guys, but feel free to ask questions as well. We will definitely open it up. So Brant is the corporate controller at Grubhub. Grubhub is the nation's leading online and mobile food ordering company. How many people use Grubhub? Yay. How many people will after today's session? You'll download the app, right? And the app's free. So Brant is an officer of Grubhub and currently acts as a corporate controller of the company. He leads all financial reporting, treasury, forecast, budgeting, audit relations, and M&A. Brant led the selection and implementation of Intact in 2011 when they were super small. I think you might have had 65 employees. You were just off of Elston in that small space, but basically a startup type mode. And that was in 2011. Today, Intact remains in place as the foundation for reporting and SEC compliance at Grubhub throughout all the organic and inorganic growth that Grubhub has experienced. And of course, their highly successful IPO was in April, so
14,
today.
2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years ago this week, yes. 2 years ago this week. So great success story. We'll talk a little bit more about their adventure here in a minute. So, and Todd is 2 brands left. Todd is the corporate controller at K-Cura. K-Cura offers e-discovery solutions for the legal industry. So how many of you have heard of K-Cura? Got some, yay, all right. Well, Todd leads the finance team, providing oversight and review of the accounting processes and financial reporting. K-Cura implemented Intact with us in 2014, 2 years ago, to complement their cloud best-in-class solution architecture of using adaptive insights in Salesforce.com as well. K-Cura has seen significant growth organically, primarily over the last few years, but just last month completed an acquisition in your space. So really super great news with the success and growth there at K-Cura. And last but certainly not least is Ted Weitzel, the corporate controller, formerly of SteelBrick and G2 Crowd. What a success story here. SteelBrick is an online, it's called a CPQ, Configure Price Quote. How many have heard of SteelBrick before? What about Salesforce? So Ted has had a dual role as corporate controller of both SteelBrick and G2 Crowd, which is the highest rated peer review site out there. He led the implementation of Intact for both companies, and shortly after joining the team a couple years ago, where our team interfaced the Intact and Salesforce solutions together, but we also developed a custom interface with their software called SteelBrick, their CPQ. So in December 2015, so just a few short months ago, SteelBrick was acquired by Salesforce for a whopping $360 million. And Ted was very instrumental in leading their finance team of 4 to merge with, how many today at Salesforce? 1,600 on their finance team today. So, and Ted is remaining at Salesforce and will remain in the Chicago area, yay! So, give a quick round of applause to these guys. So, I'll start out by just having you guys just tell a little bit more about, your story and your company and moving to the cloud.
Just to give you guys some color on Grubhub, we started basically 2007. When I joined the company, there's 30 people. Now we have 2,000 people. Back when I joined, we had about $1.5 million of revenue. Now our net is about $475 million, so a lot of growth. When I joined the company, I was hired as controller. There was not really a finance or accounting function. There was one accounts payable clerk. It was using QuickBooks, and our model works where you order off Grubhub, we take a cut of the order, we take 15%, we collect the money, and then send it back to the restaurant. So free the consumer. We take a small fee from the restaurant, and very manual, intense process. And the close used to take 8-9 days just because of reconciling the bank, doing all the manual tasks just to get everything reconciled with all the orders, the volume, and partnering with Intact and really growing the business really helped us shed days off. Now we close in 5 days. Some color on Grubhub.
K-Cura, we're just approaching 600 employees. I've been with the business since March of 2010. We were about 50, 60 at that time. Part of our story is, I get to meet Lindy and get to meet Brant, and I trust Brant at Grubhub have already been making the move to cloud. So, when you hear from people that and you've worked with in the past, their word means a lot. But for us, it was basically similar story, just growth in both complexity of accounting, revenue recognition, forecasting, things like that, and then just and then volume as well, going from 50, 60 people to 600 transaction volume, and, it's probably 15, 20 times transaction volume. So for us, it started with adaptive insights and helping plan with the business, plan, forecast. And then we already had Salesforce. We were running 80% of the business on Salesforce, so we were looking for cloud technologies that would play very, very nice with Salesforce, and all the ones that you'll hear about do. So it started with adaptive insights, had Salesforce, Intact. We've got some software that helps with commission, exactly, and a couple other cloud solutions. But really, like I said, I think scaling help us take some of the complexity and deal with the complexity and scale the business.
So Steelbrick, it's been a fun, wild ride for these last 2 years. I joined in February of 2014. I believe I was employee number 7. In 24 months, we went from 7 to 200, 3 rounds of funding, 1 acquisition, and then a sale to Salesforce. So completely wild ride. Todd says it best here. It's all about scalability. Our CEO, Goddard Abel, had a dream of growing a very quick, rapid, agile company with 0 IT resources. So we got to 400 plus customers, which I'm proud to say is the largest CPQ, or more customers than any other CPQ provider out there in the world. 0 IT resources. Every single system we use lives in the cloud, and we leverage their internal support and IT resources instead of having our own. So scalability, rapid deployment and adoption, and
Yeah. Well, great. Good stories, and thanks for sharing an overview. So, guys, just toss it out there. When you were feeling those pains of, those early days, being on QuickBooks, you guys were all on QuickBooks, what did were you developing requirements? How were you going about saying, I'm up to here now with it? I mean, what was that breaking point?
Yeah, I can take first shot. For us, a lot of the high growth business, a lot of for Intact centered around revenue recognition and our billing processes. And for us, we really didn't. Our choices were simple. We either get a solution in that can help us automate a lot of this and be more accurate and de-risk it, or start hiring an army of accountants to deal with the volume and complexity. So you get asked the question a lot of how'd you justify the investment, and it's just really simple for us because I could say, well, these are the 5 or 6 people I won't have to hire in the next 12 to 18 months, and the tech,
there's your ROI.
for itself.
Yeah, there's the return on investment.
On our end, our company was growing when I joined, 30% a month, and just something like reconciling the bank, which is stuff staff does, takes 4 or 5 days, just because we write 8,000 checks a month back then. We collect the money, we pay the restaurant with the checks. So you can imagine wrecking a bank, doing that manually, just a task like that. You can't close until it's done. I mean, information is valuable real time, and we're giving our management team information 8 days later that doesn't really work. So part of the process was really identifying and really getting us in a position where we could go public, we could scale, and we could really give information on a timely basis to make decisions.
Yeah, and at Steelbrick, our leadership team came from another company, Chicago-based company called Big Machines, which was sold to Oracle for slightly over $400 million, and they were very used to being independent thinkers, and they love data. They love to get in and play with it, and so when we went into Steelbrick, and all of a sudden they couldn't get any financial data, or they couldn't jump in and look at dashboards any longer, they just said, Ted, what's going on? I have no visibility into how this company is doing. I said, well, that's because we're on QuickBooks. You can make 3 calls, and you'll have it in 2 months. And that's exactly what they did.
So visibility, scalability, growth, weighing the cost of throwing more bodies at it versus putting and deploying some technology were all factors in your decisions. I'm going to ask the audience real quick, show of hands. Who's in the cloud today in finance and accounting? Couple. Okay, yeah. You're gonna be real soon. And who wants to be in the cloud? Is this something that you're considering in the next 12 to 18 months? Moving to the cloud. I'd ask, what's holding you back? Any comments from the audience on where you want to be? Yes, in back there.
Security.
Security. How did you guys address security in the cloud?
It's interesting. These service providers like Intact, Salesforce.com, it's their job to be secure. They have an army of people who are looking out for security. They probably have 50 to 100 people that just focus on this area. They can do it better than you can, is my opinion. It's weighing, do I want to have someone who does this for a living versus hiring 3 IT guys, locking a server in a cabinet, in some part of the office. It's weighing the risk.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably, being a public company, probably get the spotlight on security the most. But I think you hit it on the head. It's the same thing for us. I didn't have to alleviate as many concerns as you probably did and check as many boxes. But again, it's like, hey, these people, their entire brand, their entire business is at stake if they have something go wrong. And so
they'll lose every customer.
Right. So we get comfortable in that respect that like, hey, they're gonna make a much bigger investment in security than we will ever be able to be. So or be able to. So
Yeah,
A
great.
follow-up to that. We have our servers with Rackspace, outsourced servers, and they tell us they spend $10 million a year hiring penetration testers to try and hack their system.
Wow.
So if you ask yourself, if you're a $50 million a year company, would you spend $10 million a year trying to hack your own company? Wouldn't. So
Right.
these companies do it for a living.
That's a good point. And Ted,
I don't have too much to add there, except that now I am a part of Salesforce, so
Yes.
I've become intimately familiar with their trust department, and they literally have red teams who are young, crazy, psycho, unemployable hackers. Who all they do is try to just crack their systems, and they get paid obscene amounts of money to find flaws and try to come up with solutions to alleviate them. And I think as of this year, not a single person has been able to penetrate any Salesforce system.
Wow.
And these guys are people who know
Yeah.
it kind of from the inside.
Yeah. Hey, Lynn.
Lindy, don't you think that sometimes the question of security is misdirected to, is it safe on my server, as opposed to what controls do you have about your staff walking away with data on a thumb drive, emailing it to someone, and taking stuff away like that? Because the studies show that hardware security is not the big risk area. It's the people who've got access to the data inside your
Right, inside the
organization.
systems, yeah. So I know a little bit about Intact security, for example, and Intact has 2 sets of corporate firewalls. One is for their employees, but then the other one is for their actual data, where these clients' data resides. And to get into that side of the house is super, super secure with background checks, and extensive background checking on their people. And they're testing and trying, making sure, like these guys have said about the, preventing the hackers. They're also, these companies are all, today's term is called SSAE 16. It used to be the old SOC 2 reports. So the software companies are audited themselves as well. And so you have outside independent, a test function that are auditing these firms and ensuring their security as well. So good question. Yes, Skip in the back.
The internet has obviously become ubiquitous on everything, and it's quite reliable. Do you find that your customers that use it set up 2 independent internet connections, one through AT&T and another one through level 3 or something like that, so if this internet pathway goes down, they have a failover to another, or are they relying generally on a single pathway to get to you?
Take
Yeah,
that. We do
okay.
3, actually. We
Do
do 3
3?
failovers. So we do a 1 gig fiber line coming straight into the building provided by AT&T. Then we have 2 Comcast business internet connections. Then if all that fails, we actually have wireless hotspots that we can deploy to every single one of our employees. We do about 3 3 employees per hotspot, and never had to go to that level yet.
Wow.
But we make sure that we can be connected whenever.
Mhm.
I used the hotspot on the way here in my Uber, by the way. It was great.
That's fun.
But generally, do you recommend that your client infrastructure contemplate that?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a couple of connections at least. I mean, I usually hear of 2, 3, you know, that's interesting about the 3rd one. It certainly is handy.
On that, we have one, but if Grubhub wireless internet went down, for example, I would just go on my phone. People could, you know, access your, I mean, it never went down. I mean, if it
But if
does,
you're running fundamental business apps with hundreds of customers or workers, right, and the internet is not there,
oh, you're
going
talking,
to your cell phone, that isn't covered. Yeah.
well, you're
that's
talking
another
about
thing.
server connections. I mean, you know, like the engine behind Grubhub is powered by servers, right? Data comes in, hits a server, right? That's independent of the internet. Internet can go down, that doesn't impact it, right? You know, there are backups in place for customer service, so maybe I should correct that, you know, for our key functions, customer service, other things that impact people using Grubhub, there are backups in place on that app. If we're talking about general for the business like me, like general business, our internet could go down and, you know, it won't matter to anybody. But the key processes have a separate,
Wait, but the whole fundamentality of all of these apps is, it's in the cloud someplace.
Right.
There is the internet there to take you from your desk to the cloud.
Mhm.
So that's really what I'm asking, not about.
If the whole internet goes down, we have another problem.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that sections of it can't go down or otherwise, and if your level 3 connection is down, or, you know, that's why I asked, you know.
it's never happened, you know, in 6 years I've been at Grubhub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what
What about you, Tom?
when you first asked about my kid, it's probably an answer I should know. I should know how many backups we have at Gaker, but I don't. But I can say, yeah, in my 6 years, I think the fact that, you know, as leaders in the business, we haven't really had to think about it or deal with it too much speaks to how much more reliable the service provider, the internet providers are these days. So,
True.
you know, if it ever was a problem, it seems like, you know, not so much anymore. At least, you know, we haven't had to deal with it.
We've been
It's
running.
certainly a risk, for sure.
We've been running SaaS software since 2007 when we started with Big Machines, and never once have we had a day of downtime.
So SaaS, or you may have heard this term, is software as a service. So the concept is that it is a subscription, usually a monthly or annual fee, and you know, subscribe is the term to functionality based upon your business model, type of business, number of users, and then you can add functionality as you grow and scale. It's what all these guys did, you know, through anytime Brant, you know, Grubhub was doing an acquisition, Lindy, new company coming on, need 3 more users, need 2 more entities, add them, bing, they're there. You know, other functionality, maybe you guys can talk a little bit about how we rolled out these systems for you, because oftentimes this is a phased approach. Yeah, there's a quick question here.
I guess what I'm confused about is, I think it's easy to justify the business case when everything in the company can be put on the cloud. But what if you have a significant part of your technology that cannot be put on the cloud? Then you have, well, yeah, sure, accounting and business or accounting and information services can go on the cloud. If there's another significant part of the business that needs servers and, you know, IT staff, then it's not so clear as to the cost savings, because you still have those people. So I don't know whether your companies are like that, whether there's a significant portion of your technology applications that have to be on servers, or that versus whether they have, whether versus everything can be on the cloud.
Yeah, so I can take this one. Prior to joining Steelbrick and after Big Machines, I spent some time at Capital One. Guys, anyone have Capital One in your wallet? Yeah? All right, so fun thing. So all of they still kind of did have an on-prem, a huge on-prem premise. I mean, if you think about what they're running your credit card transactions through, it's basically an old JD Edwards and some TSYS. Right? So TSYS is kind of a little bit more advanced, not as on-prem as JD Edwards, but they have a giant server farm out in Villa that basically handles all of your transaction-related data. But then, if you think about their accounting software, it's Oracle, right? And that Oracle software lives all the way in, I believe it was out in Georgia or something like that. And in order to access that, it wasn't in the building where I worked up in north of Chicago here. You had to go through one VPN or another, so you still had to use the internet. And they use, so even if you do have these on-prem systems, everything needs to talk to each other, right? And it's not about, as Todd said, keeping something locked away on a server at someone's desk that could walk away at some point or another.
I mean, if Armanino and Intech does their job, they can code your system to talk to your servers. And so you're never going to have everything 100% in the cloud. You know, obviously, most people, what's that?
Unless you do.
Well, even servers, are your servers in the cloud?
Yeah.
Like, even
we
Rackspace?
we actually leveraged Salesforce's servers. We were ISV partner. Yeah.
Even if you have servers that are hardwired, I mean, your accounting system can still speak to and pull the information from your data, you know, up above.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, I mean, you mentioned like the situation you described, somewhat I can relate to, because we've got a 25-person IT staff. So I mean, the people are there that could support on-prem. We just, for us, it was understanding how nimble our group had to be, you know, in order to meet the needs and to support the business and to service the customers. So that's really what it was for us. It wasn't the fact that we didn't have the support, the IT support there. It was our ability, you know, us to be nimble and react and try to be as proactive as possible. But the honest part is a lot of our team is just reactionary of what's going on in a business that's growing really, really fast. So that's the way that we chalked up that portion of the decision.
So is the world going that way? I mean, 10, 15 years from now, 90% of all of our technology going to be in the cloud? Is that,
Yes.
Is that what the pundits are saying?
I would
Yeah.
definitely say that's where the investment is heading.
The investment is heading into there. What I see, I've worked with a lot of different ERP softwares, you know, in different, my clients have different other solutions out there. These, what I'll call, for lack of a better term, legacy systems, so the ones that have been around for the last 25 years, the software publishers are not putting any money into them. Microsoft is a great example. The Great Plains business, Dynamics GP business that I sold off a few years ago, basically is going on life support. I mean, there are no major upgrades, they're doing little fixes, but there's not a heavy investment in that solution. Microsoft is putting everything onto Azure and onto the cloud, their cloud. So these legacy systems that are out there are going to go on to life support at some point, or they're not going to be as relevant to you guys, the end users, because software like Intact or Adaptive Insights or Salesforce are making updates to their systems on a regular basis, usually 3 to 4 times a year. A whole new version is coming out with new functionality to keep up with the latest trends. Revenue recognition is a great example. Kcura has a RevRec issue. Well, TED did too, and Brant does in a different way, but you know, the revenue recognition is a moving target right now. You know, those new standards are coming out. Well, Intact is all over them, and they're coding their software to take in that new functionality. A system like Microsoft, I mean, they're not putting any money into RevRec. If you're, you know, if you fall into that category of this new RevRec thing, I mean, you're going to have to move. Good question. Yeah, over.
When you negotiated your contracts for a cloud-based system, and you think about the security and the exposure for data breach, what specifics did you build into your contract to safeguard yourself if there was a breach? Because in my experience when negotiating cloud-based contracts, the cloud vendors typically say, oh, we can't cover you on that, our liability can't go beyond, you know, $100,000. And you're like, well, somebody, if you lose all the payroll data, it's going to cost a lot more than that. So what specifically would you put into your contract around that, and how did you protect yourself?
I mean, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is not really related to like how would we cover damages, because I think with any software provider, most of them limit their liability to,
Of course,
you're right.
something ridiculous.
But for us, it was just make sure that we could get copies whenever we want of our data. whatever system it is, like, we need to be able to, with really no strings attached, pull copies so that if something went down, if something catastrophic happened, we would have raw data to recreate if we needed to. I hope that never ever, have to use it, but that's like the first thing that came to mind. And then I guess the other part of it is just, we just got comfortable with this, there's a certain amount of risk you take, and also knowing that that's their business, and that they have to do everything they can to protect, and they can't have anything go wrong, or it be game over for them, along with some of their customers probably.
Can you imagine if Intact had a data breach, they would lose all their customers?
Yeah, everybody would just.
We would go
Yeah.
to a competitor.
Yeah. Question in the back there.
Besides the situation that Patty just described, what about after a few years, you say to yourself, it's not working out, we want to go to somebody else, right? So how do you protect yourself, as Patty mentioned, in the contract itself in terms of, the format of the data, how quickly can you get it back, maybe pricing or the price penalty to have them return it to you? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I could go into Intact at any point, or Salesforce for that matter, and pull all of my data out now, at any point, and put it in a CSV file or whatever format I wanted. So you always have access to your data, and if you wanted to move to some other vendor or something like that, you would just say, all right, well, I'm going to take all my data, and then I'm going to tell them.
Yeah, I mean, it's about timing, it's about, a company like Intact though, for instance, will allow you to keep an archive type company, a read-only company, for a fraction of what the annual subscription is, so that's, would be an option if you were going to move off or wanted to archive that for some reason. But it really is part of what my role is in the sales process is help negotiate the contracts with the cloud vendors. Because we have, as a top partner with these software providers, we leverage our relationships with them and, help negotiate those contracts, so.
Yeah, I mean, our experience with a lot of these contracts, we thought they're very fair. And the way I know this is because our general counsel is like the attorney's attorney. So, I mean, he's gonna hawk everything. And even he, his feedback was very, very minimal, and he's gonna cover every risk. And so that told me that, like, hey, this is like, these groups are playing nice. I mean, they know that they can't afford to get hung up in these long negotiations over T's and C's. It's about building market share for them. And so that's, for us, has resulted in very fair terms most of the time.
Good question, yes.
This may be a question only for Grubhub. Is SOX compliance a breeze?
Easy, because it leaves a great paper trail, who can access what system, what changes are made. Like, I'm prohibited from posting an entry, okay? I can't touch the
It's
system.
all system driven.
Yeah, so, auditors can come in there and say, okay, this guy, no segregation of duties, he can only review. Only this person can approve a check up to this amount.
Did
System
you
will let
have
it.
to design that, or did
Yeah.
it come out of the box?
I sat down with Lindy and her
Yeah.
team and said, this is what I need to happen, here's the control environment. No, this person can approve checks up to 5,000 in the system, anything over 100 grand, I can approve. Anything over 100 grand, our CFO has to approve, and
Okay.
system driven, the system just won't
But you
change it.
picked the dollar amounts,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
otherwise it was embedded in the system.
And then we have a tech admin who controls the changes. So I can't go in there and make a change and say, hey, I'd like to approve $1 million. It has to go through an admin, and the admin's instructed, any changes have to be approved by the CFO.
Yeah, John.
So I'd say a big benefit of cloud computing can be, opens up the opportunity for collaboration. Now you have data real time. And maybe talk about your experiences where, budgeting or users getting into dashboards and things, What do you learn about collaboration, and what did you do? What did you do with the implementation to make the collaboration go even better?
I mean, the real advantage is we've bought 10 companies in about 2 years. I'm on the road in California, I'm on the road in Boston, and, I can peek into my entity's results at any given time, see how they're doing, ask questions. I can leave comments, why is this up, why is this down, share real-time data and feedback. I can go on my phone, I go on my iPad all the time. If I'm in my hotel room, pull it open, pull an entity down, dining in, whatever it is, seamless, and you know, you have it at your disposal. So on that end, that's powerful to me.
When I think about collaboration, so my most recent large-scale collaboration was being acquired by Salesforce and working with their due diligence team. And all of their requests I put into a dashboard just for that due diligence team. So rather than having to send files back and forth and all over the place, I would just put a report out there. They'd be able to go in and access it. If they had any questions, they could dump it and send it back to me. Another really good example is our Will Wiegler, our CMO, just loves his budget and loves his budget dashboard, and he will drill down there and be like, why was John Pora charging this to the marketing budget? That's absolutely not, that was a pre-sales activity. And pick it out, yeah. So, I mean, everybody really has a lot of incredible access to just raw data. I love the dashboards because you can just drill through them and see exactly what's making up that number. Whereas a lot of the time, if you're throwing around Excel spreadsheets or a PDF, there's the number, right? But you have no idea what the number is comprised of, right?
And there's just one quick thing I'd add. It's also changing the way that just internally within our accounting and finance team work. And this isn't widely adopted. I don't think it's a fairly new functionality, but Intax Collaborate.
Yes.
Okay, which takes the conversation chain out of email and out of like a chat system, an organizational chat system, keeps it within the accounting system, tied to a transaction, so that when I go back and review that same journal entry or that same thing, instead of me asking that same question every month and annoying the heck out of the staff, like the history's there. And I think that's something that, like I said, it's fairly new. I don't think it's like really widely adopted yet, but it's an example of how they're gonna continue to change the game and innovate, and I expect that to be like very valuable for our team.
Can we expand on that exact point and talk about after implementation, how did your company's culture change as a result of the system being adopted?
Yeah, on that, I mean, there's a lot of positivity. You know, we see it firsthand. When we buy a company, usually they're on QuickBooks for about 3 months, and we put them on Intact. And I see it all the time. We just saw one in December where, you know, the culture changes. Things are easier to close, easier to, you know, just do bank recs and information, approve entries. I mean, right now when people put stuff in the system, they can put an entry and they attach an Excel, it's in there. So everything's streamlined. Like our auditors, I don't even have to really send them an information request listing. They have a read-only access. They log in, they run their reports of what they need, they run their trial balances, they pull their samples directly from, let's say, fixed assets, what they want to test. They run it themselves and they send me, hey, pull these invoices. So it changes it, changes the game.
Is that part of the subscription cost, the read-only access, or is that extra?
Well, it's extra, but they're very inexpensive. The read-only access is super low cost, and I do see it a lot for auditors or, you know.
We do it too,
Yeah, you do too, yeah.
Business partners.
Yeah, business partners, right.
Well,
It's
if there's revenue, they run their own revenue samples. I don't have to run anything. My team doesn't have to do that. We can focus more on budgets, forecasts, analytics. And they say, pull me this, and we just got to pull the paper.
I think how it helped change, sorry.
Oh, no.
How it helped change the culture is a lot of the leaders across our business, the biggest company, the software company that they've had to be a leader at was K-Kira. So a lot of these people grew up, they don't really have much of a financial background at all. And really what this did is just eliminate, this technology helps eliminate a barrier to helping them become more financial savvy. And it eliminates reasons for them to not pay attention to it and just rely on finance. I would say Adaptive Insights is probably the biggest one in that respect, because that's where most of the users, that's how we report numbers to them, is through Adaptive and not, you know, Excel spreadsheets or anything that do with the accounting system. So yeah, that's how I would have seen them as the biggest changer in culture for us.
I say the
It's quicker.
biggest change in culture that I've seen is that now business partners, department heads, they look with their eyes and not with their fingers anymore. They're not typing an email saying, I'd like to see this. They're just going somewhere and getting it themselves. And especially if they're recurring requests, we can make all those recurring requests just go away, because it's just, you write it, you can build it in Excel, and you have the time and the aptitude, you can build it in any of these tools, and it's just there for them whenever they need it. So it really cuts down on responding in email, just your inbox shrinks.
And Ted, I'm sure you probably set up pre-canned reports, right?
that again?
Probably set up a lot of pre-canned reports.
Oh, yeah.
Or, you know, your COO, our COO will go in there, knows he needs these 6 reports. It's in the report section, he runs it. It's got his metrics of what he needs for his P&L and his area. So, you know, it's not emailing us, hey, can you tell me this, can you tell me that, he just does it. Right?
Yep, exactly. We're always writing new things, and I want to see something sliced and diced this way. It's fun.
The one thing, you know, this made me think of, you know, hey, if you, with the value of hindsight, what would you do differently? And when we initially roll out these technologies, especially adaptive, we had this good onboarding and training program for everyone. But what's happened over time, obviously you have new leaders coming into the business, people come and go. We didn't build and bake this into their onboarding from day one into the business, and we would have done that differently, and would have helped. We did lose some of the stickiness for a while. We've got it back now, but we had to invest more time in like training, and we kind of like lost some of our users for a little bit as the business grew and new people came in. So we're paying attention to that now, but that's something to keep in mind as we start making the jump into these technologies.
So, question, oh, yeah, in the back.
What kind of reduction do you see in the internal cost of administration, the old way versus the new way?
You know, on my end, we probably would have had to hire another 5 or 6 people to handle the volume. And, you know, brought the close speed process down by about 3 or 4 days, at least. It just, you know, you have a company that's doing 500,000 transactions a day. You can't do it manually, you know. You can't build a system to do it manually in QuickBooks. You know, our database, we call it our data tool, which powers Grubhub, feeds directly into Intact. So there's a push where the data is brought in. So, you know, there's no way you build even just to handle that without a complex system.
That automated.
That automated.
Same answer here. It's always been, like I said earlier, it's always been measured in the people that we didn't have to hire. And it's just, it's amazing how much we've been able to do, how much more we've been able to do with less. And sometimes, like, and even sitting here, we have to be careful that it almost doesn't get taken for granted, because it's just it's accepted now that, like, we've got all these efficiencies created. Sometimes you can forget how much it's saving you, and how many people you didn't have to hire.
Absolutely agree. Okay, same story here.
You know, the whole game is, when you're looking at a system, automate revenue. You know, if you're selling a widget, if you're selling software, if you're selling, you know, food orders, whatever, delivery, whatever it is, I mean, you can work with a consultant to figure out a way to automate that data so you're not manually entering stuff.
Yeah. And that's what we did, yeah. Go ahead.
Just in terms of the evolution of what you guys are working with, is there a sense of what you'd like to see in the next year or two in terms of additional integration or functionality or automation or whatever?
That was my next question, so I'm glad you asked it. So, yeah, what's the future looking like? You know, what are you gonna do next?
I mean, for us, it's all about revenue, right?
Yeah.
And how we're gonna handle all the changes with revenue recognition coming down the
That's a
line.
big one.
That's it.
That's huge.
I think, I would say that, so we've got 5 or 6, and they're all integrated together, and they're built to integrate with each other. All these systems have to play very, very nice together, but where it's going, where hopefully we can see that's where it's going, is for the customer to take control of the integrations and be able to make the changes themselves, and really, really super easy. Like, it's gonna be, managing integrations is going to be as easy as using these applications in sometime in the next 12 to 24 months. Whoever nails that product, they're going to make a lot of money, but it's going to be, you know,
Yeah.
I see that as like one of the biggest game changers that's going to come down the pipe in 12 to 24 months. But I don't say that it's like the integration is a pain in the butt today. It's not. They can do it, but you just need more help than I wish.
Once it's drag and drop,
yeah,
game over. So
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, good. Yes.
Did you find when you were implementing that you had a lot of customizations or tweaks? And if you did have customizations, how is your upgrade process?
You know, in terms of that, it's all about finding a good partner who knows what they're doing. When you're doing a system integration, you got to plan out what your weaknesses are, what you want the system to do, the APIs and the technology you need to build. And you can build it out in the first place, and it should be pretty smooth sailing. The upgrades they do don't impact that. You know, when Intact does upgrades, it's nice features to add, better ways to look at, you know, data and accounts payable, better screenshots, better dashboards, things like that. So it really doesn't change at least on my end, the integration with our systems on that avenue?
No, I mean, they're not changing the way that they're housing the data, they're just kind of sometimes changing the way how you can access it, making screens a little bit easier to navigate. So no problems breaking anything, I've never broken an integration. We've been running the Intact Max for Salesforce integration since 2007, across three different companies now, and it's great.
Yeah, it just doesn't break.
So you guys implemented it vanilla then with no customizations?
Well,
I think what I was gonna add to this is, it depends on how you define a customization. You may think that you're customizing the system, but really what you're doing is just configuring.
we call it configuration
Yeah.
more, so.
And we did do some customization, custom code around automating billing, but as far as like standing the system up, it's all configuration. And they're built for you to basically to mold it to your business.
But you know, if you have developers, they have developers, and so do we. So you can tweak the integration of what you needed to do. And it's basically an open sandbox of how you want to get it to work and what code you need to build around it.
You have standard
Yes.
APIs for that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
well, yes and no, at least in our end, you know, we worked a lot with their specific developers to build an API, to code our, 500,000 orders a day from our system to Intact, to pull in all the customer fields. Think about restaurant, customer data, market, all the stuff you want to see as a CFO, right? So, you know, they really work to build that kind of connectivity.
But I bet you did that at a fraction of the cost of, what's your alternative? You gotta build it from the ground up yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
So it's.
It's called Excel.
Right.
And I want to add one more point there. So when we were going through and looking at all the various vendors out there and what we were going to use for various systems, you know, we set out to say we want to get the best of breed, best in class, the thing that we have to do the least amount of tweaking to up front so that we can leverage their out-of-the-box solutions. And that's kind of what we did. I mean, we don't like customizations as a customer. I know they don't like customizations as a vendor either, and it's all about configuration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, question in the back.
A lot of the conversation today, for obvious reasons, focused on what appear to be more service-oriented businesses. There are a lot of people in the room here, I think, who are more of a manufacturing background, and one thing that has not been touched on is the suitability of cloud computing systems in a manufacturing environment. I realize that earlier on, manufacturing posed a few headaches for the cloud world. Maybe that's changed, but I would be very curious to hear about cloud and manufacturing as compared to cloud and services.
And service, yeah, I'll take that one. The manufacturing market, and even I would say supply chain kinds of industries, companies, are ripe right now for cloud. They've been sitting on-premise legacy systems forever, and like I said before, Microsoft and these other vendors, you look at Sage, you look at Epicor, you look at Platinum, I mean, you guys have all used older versions of these. They're not upgrading them anymore. So if the business is evolving, if you're automating the manufacturing, I mean, within the factory, if you will, it's right for things like mobile, iPads, tablets, to help move around in the plant. Same with the ERP. The day is right around the corner when the cloud solutions are going to be mature enough for that market.
But as of now, there really are not satisfactory cloud solutions for manufacturing.
They're just starting to enter the market. So I think as far as a trend, what I see in my business, not in these businesses, but for me as a consultant, and recommending these solutions, that the next 5 years, especially in Chicago with the wealth of manufacturing and supply chain type companies we have here, will be just a whole new marketplace opening up in the cloud.
And I believe that, but back to the question, today.
Yeah, today it's just not there. I mean, there are limited solutions today.
That's all you
Yeah.
want to know.
But just to that point, I'll just say, we just went through a process, and we're a chemical manufacturer. And we actually found cloud systems that can handle lot tracking to FDA standards and other things that didn't exist 5 years ago, to where
So they're
we found a
coming,
good answer for
yeah.
manufacturing.
They're starting to emerge, and But stay tuned, I think that's a whole new area that will be over the next couple of years, we'll be ready for a lot of you guys to jump into the cloud. So we're just about at the bottom of the hour. I wanted to just take a quick minute and thank my clients. I would happen to be in the Napa Valley all week on a sales club winners trip. So guess what I had? And Brad, if you could pull it out and show them, this is actually Armanino wine in a really cool wine carrier. So
Thank you.
my firm, Matt and Andy, and their dad have a winery.
Nice.
And so I brought back some wine for these guys as just a small token of my appreciation for joining us today. And enjoy, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm going comment. Yeah, I do have cars up here. In 2 weeks, actually from today, we're holding an event, and it's at a Wrigley rooftop in the morning from 9 to noon. And we have just a handful of tickets left for the ball game. It's Cubs Brewers. So you have to go to the thing in the morning to go to the rooftop in the afternoon, but should be a great day. And gosh, I mean, the Cubs are on a roll. So if anybody really is interested, take a flyer, but we're going to have to know like in the next day or so because all the tickets are being snatched up. So, and thanks again. We'll be around. So we're sticking around for the next